Likkutei Torah, Parsha Shelach, page Lamed Zayin. First column, in middle of the first column, not by his base, but before his base, like 15 lines before his base begins. Okay, the Alter Rebbe is explaining that the sin of the Meraglim was they didn't want to come into Olam HaDibur because, Olam HaMaaseh, they didn't want to come into the world of action because they maintained that would conceal Elokus to such an extent that would affect them in a negative way. So, but Yeshua and Kalev said, Teva ha'aretz ma'od ma'od, meaning, Dafke in the Gashmistic world, can you reveal a level of godliness infinitely greater than it is only in the Ruchniistic levels. And he gave a mashal that a great intellectual concept sometimes it cannot come into words. Sometimes it has to be like the Gemara says, Daila Chakima Beremiza. It has to come with an action, a movement of the hand, which brings out a deeper level of Chacham. And then he says, Eid Mashal, another Mashal of this. He says, when you have a shining stone, because of its shining, you don't notice the letters shining on the stone. Yet, when it's on wax, in other words, this something that's too shiny and you want to look at the letters, you can't see it. Dafka, when it's not a stone that shines, it's like wax, that's the function in those days, so then it's noticeable. In other words, the Yeshua and Kalev understood that the ultimate level of Elokus can only come down in the lower levels. Not like the Meraglim wanted to stay in the world of Midbar Medaber. They wanted to stay in the world of speech, not bring it down to action, and that was their sin. You look at the tzitzis, you remember all the mitzvahs Hashem, by looking into the Lamed Beis Chutim Gashmin, the 32 strings. You know, there's 8 strings on each side, 4 sides. Then you'll remember the mitzvahs of Hashem only by looking at the physical tzitzis, the physical strings. Then you will come to remember Hashem. Why? Talis is an encompassing level. The Lamed Beis Nesivas Chacham. I'll explain in a second. We know that there's a lot of mitzvahs that are encompassing levels, and then you have to internalize it. For instance, we learned sukkah. You walk into a sukkah, it encompasses you, but then you have to do lulav and esrog, which is bringing it down into the world. You have talis, which is a garment, it surrounds you, and then you have tefillin, which is the mind and the head, which internalizes that level of talis. That's why Kabbalistically you put on the talis first, and then you put on the tefillin. But even in the talis itself, you have the talis, the garment, and then you have the 32 strands of the tzitzis, which correspond with the Lamed Beis Nesivas Chochmah. The Gemara says, it's based on the pasuk. There's 32 paths of Chochmah and 50 gates of Bina. In fact, it says, it's the pasuk, but the word Levanon, which is Lebanon, is Lev Nun, which is Chochmah and Bina. So they have so that was the sin, and he says, contrary to the thought with the Meraglim. The Meraglim thought Elokus will be greater, Dafka, in Ruchnius. And Yeshua and Kalev, Moshe Rabbeinu, and that's what Hashem wanted, Moshe Rabbeinu, which was our third day. Still, and that's why, so this, everything is part of the plan. Moshe Rabbeinu was too great to go into Eretz Yisrael. That's why he didn't go in. Yeah, this happened. He hit the rock. He did this. He did that. That's all, exterior things. The real thing was, Moshe Rabbeinu had no shaykhs to Eretz Yisrael, only Yeshua is able to take the Jews into Eretz Yisrael. What?
What did you say?
Connection. Moshe Rabbeinu had no connection to going into Eretz Yisrael. Why? Because Moshe Rabbeinu, like he said the same thing in last week's parsha, Me'ayin li basar. How can I give meat? I'm above that. I'm Atzilus. And Atzilus is the world not of action. Atzilus is spiritual. Yet he davened 515 tefillas, love and because that's Ikar HaMechuv and Vatach Zabriya, but he didn't merit in Yeshua Dafka Machnas. So Chassidus in Kabbalah explained, why didn't Moshe Rabbeinu go into Eretz Yisrael? Eretz Yisrael is the world of action. And that's the ultimate kavanah, to go into, bring Elukus through action. Moshe Rabbeinu was too great to be able to accomplish that. He had to stay in the midbar, in the world of dibur, in the world of speech, in the world above action. And Yeshua, which is not the same greatness of Moshe Rabbeinu, he was able to bring the Eden into Eretz Yisrael. What?
For the same reason the whole generation, because we're also
They were Dordei, but they sinned much more than Moshe Rabbeinu did.
That's why he's not dead.
No, I mean,
Huh?
I'm saying
That's why he didn't die.
Well, Moshe Rabbeinu.
Sure.
Yeah, the question what it means, yeah?
You just put him on the side, it's not time yet.
Yeah, whatever.
Who gave the you to Yeshua? Hashem?
Who gave what?
The you.
Hashem.
Hashem gave you?
You know, I thought you said who gave the YouTube to Yeshua. Hashem gave.
Hashem gave.
Well, Moshe Rabbeinu called him Yeshua, but it was based on what Hashem told him to call him. What? Oh no, so the door, yeah, but that was a different door.
Isn't everything in life as Makifin level before it becomes an
Everything is makif and then pnimi. That's the whole world. The shtalshus like that, so Gashmis is like that.
But you just said in some cases. There's not some cases, every case.
Every case is makif and pnimi, but some are emphasizing the makif, some are emphasizing the pnimi. Okay, the next paragraph is all, that's the parentheses.
did Moshe Rabbeinu know that he's not shy for it?
Moshe Rabbeinu, of course he knew. He learned this Maimer.
So why did he daven 515?
He said because Alter Rebbe said Afal B'Keini Daven because he that was the ultimate. He was hoping maybe Hashem will let him in.
Rabbi, why 515, not 600? What is it, 515? I know you said it once.
515 is the numerical value of the word tefillah. Davening equals 515. And Yitzchak and Rivka, we said Shabbos by Pirkei Avos. Yitzchak and Rivka equals 515.
And you said 2 more things.
Huh?
There were 2 more gematrias.
Not about that. Not about
It's
tefillah.
connected to tefillah.
I remember. Okay. Okay, let's skip to the next Maimer on Saint Lamed Zayin, second column. V'yemel kol das b'nei Yisrael lemer. So Yeshua called said to the Yidden, Teva, it's ma'ed ma'ed. The land is very, very good. Kim chafetz banu Hashem, if Hashem wants. Ve'vi eisanu el Eretz Azeis, and he'll take us to this land. V'nasna lanu, and he'll give it to us edas of us chalav v'devash, a land flowing with milk and honey. So he says, L'hav and yendiktu kloshen hakosuv. To understand what the pasuk says, they said ma'od ma'od shnei pa'amim. They said ma'od ma'od twice. Okay, I'll just explain the other minor. But the question is, why didn't they just say teva aretz ma'od? It's very good. What's the ma'od ma'od? You don't find that expression too often. So he says v'chein eretz yizavas chalosh. It's a land flowing with milk and honey. So he says like this. To understand in the spiritual world the story of the Meraglim they didn't want to go into Eretz Yisrael and they made it the negativity about it. So he says, why didn't the Meraglim want to go into Eretz Yisrael? So he says like this. In the Mavor Beitz Chaim Arizal says the Meraglim, the Meraglim were very lofty people. They came from the world of thought. That's what the Arizal writes. Came a day of understanding, which is thought basically, not action. They didn't want to come into the land of Eretz Yisrael, which is Elam Adibo, which is called Rachel. Okay? There's Leah and there's Rachel, whatever. Leah is thought, Rachel is speech. These neshamas of the Meraglim came from the world of Machshava, so they wanted to stay in the Midbar. They didn't want to go into the world of Dibur. Here he's saying it's Dibur and Eretz Yisrael. So he says like this. To understand what all this means, what is the primary purpose of going into Eretz Yisrael is laseis ba'aretz, to do mitzvahs, action. In the Midbar, again, they didn't have so much the physical mitzvahs so much as when they came into Eretz Yisrael, all the mitzvahs of agricultural, all that stuff. Hainu l'kayim shamatera mitzvahs. Ki yesh kama mitzvahs shetluis ba'aretz dafka. There are many mitzvahs dependent dafka in Eretz Yisrael, like the binyan Beis Hamikdash, the member, similar things like that. There are things that are only, applied in Eretz Yisrael. So he says like this. Why is it? Now the bottom line is, the Meraglim didn't want to go into Eretz Yisrael because they were above the level of Eretz Yisrael. But the inyan of Eretz Yisrael is to do physical mitzvahs. That's the whole purpose of the Eden going into Eretz Yisrael. So he says, what does this mean? What is the primary purpose of Torah mitzvahs? To separate between pure and impure. Okay? The whole purpose of Torah mitzvahs is what's called Avedas HaBirurim, to separate good from bad. And the Alter Rebbe is going to explain. When Shviras HaKelim took place in the world of Tehu, all the sparks, super lofty sparks of Kedusha from the world of Tehu, came down into this world. They fell down into this world. And they mixed with the good. So now you have a mixture of good and bad. By the way, which was the cause of Adam and Rishon sinning in the Eitz Hadas, because before Eitz Hadas, good was good, bad was bad. They were not mixed, so if they weren't mixed, you didn't need to separate good from bad. So now what happened? Adam and Rishon sinned, he homogenized, mixed together good and bad, and now our Avodah, since the Eitz Hadas, is to separate good from bad. But that really began from the concept of Tehu. The purpose of Shviras HaKelim, the Tehu, why did Hashem could have made it that Tehu shouldn't have to break. He could have made it, Hashem could do whatever he wants. But Hashem wanted the sparks of Tehu to break, to come down here, to mix with the good, and now he says separate good from bad. So now, before we go further, let's explain this concept. There are certain things that are total evil. There is good in them, but the good is not able to be elevated. Overwhelmed. The good is not able to become elevated. Why? Because like the Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya, it's asur, it's forbidden. Asur means bound. That means the good that's in Chazal, let's say, is so bound to klipa, you can never elevate it. Until Mashiach comes. You can't elevate it, you can't separate the bad from the good. It's too tight, so to speak, in the spiritual sense, that you can't elevate it. Then you have Klipas Naiga, the neutral level of evil, which is, as the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, anything which is not holy is automatically evil. That means an apple is evil, and the table is evil, and the chair is evil. It's not holy, it's not Kedusha. Over there, the spark of Kedusha, and that's the primary Avedah Abirurim. Over there, the Kedusha that's in the apple, let's say, is mutar, permissible, but it also means, mutar means untied. Matir asuri. Huh?
Liberate.
No, untied.
Free.
No, untied. It's still there, but it's not bound there. It's not freed yet. We free it. It's not freed yet. Our avodah is to free it by separating the good from the bad. Now, how do we separate the good from the bad? By utilizing the apple or any other object to elevate the Kedusha. Then you have sparks of Kedusha that are already pre-elevated already. They're already holy, you don't have to separate them. Okay? The whole purpose of Torah mitzvahs is to separate good from bad.
What about elevating ourselves?
That's by separating the bad from the good from the bad. By separating the good from the bad, that's how you elevate ourselves too. But that's the whole avodah of Torah mitzvahs. That's why it's in Gashmis, because the sparks of Tehu didn't fall into Atzilus. They didn't fall into Bri Yitzira, or even for that matter, spiritual Asiyah. It fell into this world of action, of Gashmis. And therefore the whole avodah of Torah mitzvahs is in Gashmis.
And they didn't see it.
Huh?
And they didn't see it.
No, they came from a level like Moshe Rabbeinu said before, couldn't go on tight. So their neshamas were too great to be able to lower themselves to deal with action. They just couldn't do it. So he says, Shaydei, what's the Ikar primary term? The Birudim, Levada, Tevmina, Shaydei, Shvira. The Malka had more in the Tehu, by the breaking of the Kalim of the earlier kings of Tehu. Shnafla, Rapachnitzutz is the Tehu. 288 sparks of Kedusha fell. The Nislab Shebenegen fell into Klipas Noigal, the Isma'od of Teverat to mix with good and bad. Ben Tzrichem Ali, and they need to be elevated. Hainu, Aidishes, Badud of the Yufrud of Tchilim and Ara Koshabem. By first separating them from the bad they're connected to, then you can elevate it back to the source, the Makashoshan, to where they came from, back to Teu, meaning you're revealing a greater level of Elukus. So we know, and this we learned many times, that how many sparks of Kedusha fell down? 288. Where does, so in the place in Torah, the Alter Rebbe says, where do we see this concept of Rapach Nitzutzim, the 288 sparks? Because at the beginning of Chumash it says, V'ruach Elokim mirachefes al pnei hamoyim. The Spirit of God hovered over the water. Mirachefes, the first letter is Mem, the last letter is Sof, which is Meis, and the middle letters are Rapach. So Meis, Rapach, meaning to do 288 sparks of Tehu fell into the world, died, meaning they fell into the world of Klipa, of Gashmias. Now, when the Yidden left Egypt, because all of the money of the whole world was in Egypt, because everybody came with the hunger years. They brought everything, the money and the cattle and everything belonged to Egypt. So when the Yidden left Egypt, they went out with them with 200, they elevate 202 sparks of Kedusha. From the 288, they elevated 202. 202 is left, how many is left? 86?
No, it's not that. We elevated.
No, yeah, but I'm saying when they left, when they left, they took out 202 out of 288, is 86 left, yes? 86? You're good, thank you. So then, that's the numerical value of Elokim, and that's the whole Aveda from Yitzias Mitzrayim until Mashiach to elevate 86 sparks, which explains the reason of the halacha why you're not allowed to go back to Mitzrayim. It's there because there's nothing there to elevate. And that's why, we'll speak very politically correct, there's certain neighborhoods which heavy-duty Jewish neighborhoods, and then all the Jews left, and then it became a very colorful neighborhood. Okay? But what happened? The Jews took all the sparks of Kedusha from that area with them. So there's nothing there, basically. The Jews elevated all the sparks. So he said...
I like the foothill that they left.
The what?
The Shulat foothill that they left.
Yeah, that was elevated and finished.
Boyle Heights.
No, it's a dance.
Boyle Heights, Bronzeville, go through the areas.
Oh, yeah, all over New York.
You talk about Spain,
Look at Iran.
Iraq, and Jews that
Okay, no, listen, Talmud Bavli is from Iraq. Bavel is Iraq. That's where the whole Torah Shabbat Pez from Bavel. So now we have this stuff instead. Okay, back here. That's the whole concept of mitzvahs. Mitzvahs saseh and mitzvahs lo saseh. Positive and negative mitzvahs. So what's the avoid over here? Through the lo saseh you separate the good from the bad. By day and then by doing a positive mitzvah is aliyah satev l'mayl. So the Alter Rebbe explains it this: keeping negative commandments basically separates the good from the bad, because if evil on its own has no existence, evil is darkness. Darkness is not an entity. It's an absence of light, an absence of kedusha. So normally, the things of klipa that Hashem forbade was basically that it's dark and evil. The only way they get their chayas is when a Jew does an avera. When a Jew does an avera, like he eats chazer, so then he gives strength to the evil. So then the evil is holding down to the kedusha, to the spark of kedusha, stronger than if you didn't eat the chazer. So you weaken the chazer. So when you weaken evil, automatically good can be better. But when you strengthen evil, then good has a bigger fight to overcome the evil. So he says, lo yisasa are to separate, to loosen it up, and then mitzvah saseh is to elevate the sparks to kedusha. Behind is a mitzvah. He says like this: when you do a mitzvah, you take an esrog to shake. A tzemer, you take wool. You make tzitzis. So what happens? Okay, so the esrog, before you made a brach on it, it's not kedusha. In fact, it's interesting. Even after you do the mitzvah with it, it's not kedusha. You can throw it out. It's very interesting. Even these all levels of kedusha, we learned there's things that are forbidden to eat, and there are things that are forbidden to benefit from. For instance, like chazer, you're not allowed to eat, but you're allowed to benefit from chazer. That means you can elevate the chazer, not the eating sparks, but the benefit sparks. Certain things are forbidden to benefit also from. Chametz and Pesach, Arla, Klaya, things that the Torah forbids, you're not allowed to meat and milk together. You're not allowed to benefit from it, right? That means over there the sparks are so evil is so permeating, it permeates the essence of, you can't even benefit from it. Forget about eating it. But regular chazer, you're not allowed to eat, but you can benefit. That means you could elevate a certain aspect of chazer, the benefit aspect, not the eating aspect. And the same thing in kedusha. This sefer, when you finish learning it, remains holy. Can't throw it out. Okay? But and a tefillin, you can't throw out. But an esrog and a lulav, you can throw it out.
Apple, you could say, bro, I don't buy it, and the rest you could.
Well, then you get a sin of wasting, but yeah. Okay, what I'm saying, and halachically, a lulav and an esrog, you did the mitzvah with it, it became holy, but it's not holiness that you can't throw out. It's interesting the way everything, and there's reasons of Kabbalah why this remains, like we said, the wonder of wonders is Har Sinai, the greatest revelation of Elokus that ever existed until Mashiach, and the second they left the mountain, it's not holy anymore. And the Mokem HaMikdash, which is not as great as the revelation of Matan Torah, the mountain is holy. Har HaBayis is holy.
Whether it's used or not?
What?
Whether it's used.
Doesn't matter. The Mokem HaMikdash, but the Mishkan not. The Mishkan camped in a place in the desert, right? That place was holy. Then they moved to the next city in the Midbar. Yeah? Wasn't holy anymore.
But once Har is vacated, that is, if
Kedusha leizazim im kaim, the Gemara says. The Kedusha never moved. That's why today you're not allowed to go on Har HaBayis.
But you just said that if you don't use it, it's not occupied.
No, that's what I'm saying. If I put on tefillin once,
Right.
I don't use it anymore for 70 years.
Right.
It's still holy.
Correct.
So I'm saying, So what are you saying about using it?
But how is it Har Sinai when you left? It's no longer holy.
Right. But the place of the base of Mikdash is. So I'm saying it's what?
Is it a difference? Like, certainly it was made to become a holy object. The Islamic Dash was made to be a holy place. But the Sinai, Ezra and Lula, they...
Yeah, but you know, the animal that the leather is made from wasn't made to be holy. And yet the leather became holy. I understand. Yeah, I mean,
It all depends. There's no set rule.
the set rule of what the Eibishter wants is what happens. And even tzitzis. Tzitzis, you could throw out the garment of tzitzis.
Yarmulke, yes.
Yarmulke is nothing. A gartel is also nothing. A gartel is not any kedusha whatsoever.
Right. But Ritzus is.
Ritzus is.
So just, it's all, each one has its own point.